Hello everyone, this is part 17 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. It was a relatively quiet day. The receptionist at the hospital was busy enjoying her tea that she was sipping, but nothing else. The biggest event that had happened in the past day was the admittance of one Hinata Hoiga with multiple knife wounds. However, nothing was too serious and the doctors were able to patch her up with relative ease. The only worry was what would a certain head of the Hoiga clan say when he found his daughter had been admitted to the hospital, that and the orange blur that was quickly rushing towards the hospital. Hinata, which room? Asked a frantic Naruto, as he practically burst the doors down. The receptionist simply pointed down the hall and told Naruto in room 107. Without saying anything else, Naruto bolted off towards Hinata's room. I apologize for him, said Hiashi, coming into the hospital lobby only seconds after Naruto arrived. He took off the same direction as the orange blur. He had just returned from some clan business that was out of town and had just gotten the news on Hinata's hospitalization. Unlike Naruto though, he was trained not to freak out like that, at least until he knew what had happened. Following closely behind Hiashi was Kurenai and the rest of Team 8, including a dreading Kiba. Hinata was sitting in her bed, trying her best to relax. Everything hurt. She had been healed and she would be out of the hospital in a day or two, but still her entire body was even sorer than it had ever been. What was really bothering her was what her father would say, seeing her like this. Hinata. She was sure she could hear Naruto's voice coming from the hallway. And just like that, her blonde boyfriend came tumbling into the room, dragging with him the two Hoiga that had been stationed as guards. Naruto. She squeaked out, happy that he had shown up. She only wished he wasn't seeing her like this. Wrapped around her head was a bandage from where a kunai had just grazed her forehead, leaving a gash. Her entire torso was also bandaged, having received multiple kunai in various places on her body, thankfully nowhere fatal. The guards got to their feet, angry at the orange-clad blonde for barging into Hinata-sama's room. They were prepared to throw him out when they heard voice come from the door. He's fine. Let Naruto go, ordered Hiashi. Naruto took this time to make his way to Hinata's side as Hiashi was inspecting the damage. Father, Hinata said as she saw a look of disappointment on her father's face. Should I tell him or should you, Kiba? Asked Kurenai. The rest of Team 8 was standing inside the door. Flashback, 3 days ago. Team 8 had been assigned a B-rank mission about 2 weeks ago to locate and track the activity of a few Iwa teams that had been sighted within the Land of Fire. They had finally picked up on a foreign team within their territory. Seeing as this team was composed of 3 genin and a jonin, their mission was simply track and observe. However, missions like these always earned a rank of B or higher as there was a very good chance of enemy confrontation should the tracking team be noticed. The normal result being that the enemy ninjas would pick up on their location and try to lure their pursuers into some kind of trap. Team 8 had been following a team of Iwa Chunin for the past 4 days, not moving, but simply observing. Their actions were not provocative in a fashion, but it never hurt to keep an eye on them. Ahead, one of the Iwa ninja, who was most likely a sensory type, picked up on their tails. The rest of the team nodded as they altered the direction only slightly. An experienced tracker team would have noticed this slight deviation and would have their suspicions. However, Team 8 was still considered young, despite having 3 of the village's best in terms of tracking. They had the skill and the potential to be great at what they did, they just needed the experience. The Iwa team came to a halt and it appeared as if they had set up camp for the night. Shino had a few of his insects monitor the situation with the Iwa ninja as Team 8 also set up their own camp, about a half a mile away from the Iwa. This distance was standard, not close enough to be detected, but close enough to be able to keep an eye on the Iwa ninja as it was well within Hinata's range for her Byakugan and the same went for Kiba's nose. Speaking of Kiba, for the past week, he had been distracted due to some of the more recent actions between his teammate and a particular blonde member of his class. For Kiba, it started just a little after the Chunin exams. It was around this time when he felt some strange desire for his lavender-haired teammate. This was actually normal in the Inuzuka clan as their lifestyle and even the development mimicked canines in a way. And Kiba was starting to reach that age. Of course, being on the same team as Hinata only served to make his familiarity with her stronger, and the canine-like attributes that were present in the Inuzuka clan began to take hold of him, if only slightly. In short, he was beginning to see the young Hyuga heiress as a potential mate in the future. Now, Kiba was fully aware of Hinata's feeling towards Naruto. In fact, just about everyone in the village, except Naruto, was aware of the young Hyuga's feelings. To Kiba, this was fine as he would work to weaken those feelings and strengthen any feelings she may have towards him. At least this would work so long as Naruto remained completely oblivious to Hinata. That realization changed when he spotted the two of them having lunch together, followed by them running for their lives from a particular purple-haired crazy Chunin exam proctor. What Kiba then saw as they came to a stop really infuriated him. Naruto gave Hinata a quick peck on the lips, in front of Neji even, and Neji made no motion to stop it, although his expression had hinted to Hinata not show those types of affection in public. The following morning when they met for the mission, Kiba could even smell a small hint of Naruto on her. The two of them had then most likely met for breakfast. To Kiba, this was slightly disgusting as he was now aware that Naruto was aware of Hinata's feelings, and apparently he was responding. He tried to push some thoughts out of his mind for the good of their mission, but those thoughts made their way back when he caught a glimpse of Hinata looking at that picture that Naruto had given her. So tell me, Hinata, what do you see in him? Asked Kiba. He, Shino, and Hinata were sitting around a small fire, and Kiba found this would be the best time to get some answers from Hinata. Who are you talking about? Asked Hinata. She knew who he was talking about. As a Hyuga, she could read emotions easily, and it wasn't hard to detect a hint of jealousy in Kiba at the moment. You know who I'm talking about, Naruto. What makes him so great? Asked Kiba. It was at this time that Shino received some information from his insects. The Iwa shinobi had begun to move, and they were moving right towards Team 8. These situations were common. The team being followed would either try and shake off the pursuers or eliminate them. Apparently, they were attempting the latter. Kiba, Hinata, they. Shut up, Shino, shouted Kiba. The Iwa ninja would hear this for sure. Kiba, why are you acting like this? Asked Hinata. Her teammate was beginning to scare her as he grew ever more aggressive. You tell me. He's done nothing but ignore you for the past, what? 4 to 5 years. And now all of the sudden, the two of you are practically inseparable. What did you do to him to get you to notice? Did the two of you do something on that trip you took? Did you know? Asked Kiba. Kiba, shouted Hinata. She was trying to stop him. She hadn't even thought about going that far with Naruto, at least not yet, but that didn't mean she wanted people assuming she did. Both of you please. We need to get out of here, said Shino, trying to interject. I'm not leaving until I get answers, shouted Kiba again. Kiba, please. Shino's right, said Hinata. She had activated her Byakugan the moment Shino warned them and had noticed a few Iwa shinobi rapidly closing in on them. Well then answer me, demanded Kiba. His animalistic instincts had already clouded his sense of reason. Both Shino and Hinata knew they had to move soon if they had any chance of getting away before the Iwa shinobi were upon them. Shino and Hinata made the motion to jump into the trees around them and look for some sort of cover. However, before Hinata could move, Kiba grabbed her hand, making sure she didn't get away before she gave him an answer. Unfortunately, this gave the Iwa ninja an opening and they launched their kunai towards the restrained girl, pelting her with about a dozen knives before Kiba could process that Shino was right and they were in danger. Hinata dropped to the ground as 3 Iwa shinobi surrounded Kiba. This will teach you not to mess with us, one of the ninja declared as the 3 rushed Kiba. Tree binding technique was called out from the forest as the trees of the forest came to life and bound the Iwa shinobi, practically crushing them. When she was certain they had been incapacitated, Kurenai jumped down from the trees and ended the genjutsu, leaving the 3 Iwa shinobi on the ground, unconscious. She instantly panicked and made her way over to an injured Hinata. There were over a dozen wounds on the girl's body and a rather large gash on her forehead from where a knife just grazed her. Thankfully though, Hinata was still alive. They did, However, need to rush her back to Konoha for immediate treatment before any of these wounds became infected or she lost too much B. Kiba, what the hell was that? Never mind, we'll talk about it later, snapped Kurenai as she picked up the injured and unconscious Hinata and darted off towards Konoha, a day and a half away. Team 8 pushed through the night, stopping only to try and bandage up Hinata. Shino's insects did prove effective in slowing the bee, but she would need medical treatment fast if she was going to survive. Team 8 arrived in Konoha in time to get Hinata the required treatment before she bled out too much. End flashback. Kiba tried his best to shrink out of sight as Kurenai finished her explanation. However, Kiba wasn't going to escape Hiashi, who had his Byakugan active. Naruto was also preparing to kick Kiba's A, however he himself was being restrained by Hinata. Before Kiba could think what he was going to say, he felt a Juoken strike to his stomach from Hiashi, him back into the wall. "Father!" shouted Hinata, shocked at her father's unusual action. She had never seen him like this before. Please, stop." Hiashi stopped the next strike that was aimed at Kiba. This was just like Hinata. Sometimes he felt like she forgave people too quick and easily. Hiashi turned to Kurenai, who was also a little shocked by Hiashi's behavior. "I expect you'll handle this." Kurenai nodded. "Don't worry. Kiba hasn't even tasted pain yet." Kiba gulped. Despite Kurenai's kind and carefree appearance, she could be a real S-driver and they had learned it the hard way. It was at this time that one of the people who would give her the most benefit entered the room. Neji, perfect timing. Neji turned and bowed to Kurenai and his uncle and then turned to see if Hinata was alright, practically having to pry Naruto away. Hiashi had considered it, but at least it showed that Naruto cared for his daughter. "What do you mean by perfect timing?" Kurenai-sensei. "Well, I'm looking for a suitable punishment for Kiba here. So tell me, what is the most painful, most strenuous workout that guy has ever given you? And I mean the worst one you've had. You know, the ones where you couldn't even move afterwards because it felt as if 1,000 knives have been driven into every nerve of your body," asked Kurenai. Neji got a devious smile on his face. Kiba was not going to like this. Before leaving the room, Hiashi turned to Kiba. "For now, I do not want you anywhere near my daughter except for when official shinobi business calls for it. Do I make myself clear?" Kiba gulped at Hiashi's warning. "Hey billboard brow," Ino shouted, approaching Sakura in the middle of Konoha. "What do you want, Ino pig?" snorted Sakura in protest to Ino's billboard brow comment. The two butted heads for a moment, but the reason why Ino had sought out Sakura in the first place came to her. "I just got back from a mission, but guess what I found out prior to leaving?" said Ino. Sakura listened in, knowing that Ino was probably the biggest gossip queen in Konoha. "No," gasped Sakura, not believing what Ino was saying. "Are you sure this was Naruto?" "Yeah, I mean who else has blonde hair and wears a bright orange jumpsuit that can be seen from Kumogakaru?" said Ino. Sakura admitted Ino had a point there. "But are you sure they are together?" asked Sakura. "I mean I saw them and Naruto mentioned that he would take her out on a date. It must be just recently that they started going out," said Ino. "I even heard Naruto say something about taking her on a fist date, which must mean that they've only started seeing each other." Suddenly, it came to Sakura. "Ino, we have to help them," she said. "What? Why?" responded Ino. "This is Naruto we are talking about. Where do you think he would take Hinata on a first date?" said Sakura. The answer came to Ino almost instantly: ramen. "You're right. It's our responsibility to make sure the two of them stay together. That way, Naruto won't get in the way of me going out with Sasuke," declared Ino. "What do you mean you going out with Sasuke? He's obviously going to go out with me, Ino pig," retorted Sakura. "Bah, who would want to go out with you and that gigantic forehead?" argued Ino. "Ino pig. Billboard brow." A few more minutes of the two going at each other's end and they finally came to an agreement. They would help Naruto to ensure that he was with Hinata. They did this for two reasons. One was because Naruto had a habit of getting in people's way when it came to Sasuke back in the academy. If he had Hinata, chances were he wouldn't be in the way as much. The other one was to eliminate any sort of compare the Hyuga heiress may put up when it came to getting Sasuke's heart. They didn't know how strong her feelings were for Sasuke, But from what they remember, every girl was gaga over Sasuke in the academy, except for Hinata, who was always too shy. But I mean, this was Sasuke, she had to have feelings for their Sasuke. They couldn't think of any girl who didn't have feelings, so that meant that she had to have feelings for Sasuke, or so they assumed. Then again, the only one Hinata would ever shy away from and even give a hint of liking was Naruto. No, they couldn't take any chances. If she did have feelings for their Sasuke, this was a perfect opportunity to eliminate the companion. Success, failure, success, failure. Lee sighed as the last petal he has plucking off a flower resulted in failure. He had been doing this for hours. For weeks, he had been thinking on Tsunade's diagnosis. After all the effort his team had gone through to cheer him up over the past months, it still came down to a 50 out of 50 chance with an operation that was so difficult that only the very best medic could perform it. If the operation failed, he would s. If it succeeded, there was still only a chance that he would be able to return to being a shinoi. Lee looked down into the river to watch as the most recent failure floated off on the river. He looked down at the sad face looking back at him and suddenly saw two more faces join him. Neji, Tenten, Lee asked as his two teammates joined him. Hey Lee, responded Tenten. How were your missions? Lee asked, becoming slightly more depressed that his teammates were carrying on while he was stuck in the village. They were, alright, responded Tenten. They weren't the same without you though, added Neji, trying to cheer Lee up. Lee, on my mission, I ran into that Gaara that you fought in the exams. Gaara, responded Lee. Did you fight him? Neji shook his head. No, this mission was a joint mission where we were allies. Oh, I see, said Lee. But, I did get a chance to talk to him, and he is sorry that you ended up like this, said Neji. He even said that he would want to face a strong opponent like you again. He said I was strong? Asked a surprised Lee. Yes. He said you were the first person to ever push him like that. You were the first person to ever hit him. He told me he desires to face you again, Neji said. He's not the only one. Huh, who else wants to fight me? Asked Lee. I do, stated Neji. I apologize for everything I've said to you in the past. You're strong and I want to face you in combat when you get the surgery and recover. But the surgery, what if it fails? Said Lee. Neji turned to Lee and Lee saw something in Neji's eyes that he thought he would never see from his fate-obsessed teammate, the flames of youth. That is not your fate, Lee. Sure, this is something you have to face, but I know what your fate is. Nay, then what is my fate? Replied Lee. Your fate is to become a splendid ninja. It is our fate to meet each other one day in the area and fight each other with all our heart, said Neji. Neji's right, Lee. This isn't you. You're strong, you won't let anything keep you down. I know if you go into the surgery with the same attitude you've gone into everything else, you'll come back as good as new, said Tenten. Neji, Tenten, was all Lee could say, in disbelief at what his teammates were saying. Lee. A voice came from behind, one that Lee knew all too well. Guy-sensei, said Lee, turning around. Lee, listen to your team. Get the surgery. You won't be as good as new, you'll be better, having come out stronger from this obstacle, said Guy. Let the flames of youth guide you and you'll come out just fine. Guy-sensei. Lee. If by a 1 in 1,000, no a 1 in a million chance you s, then I will s with you. It has been my dream to mold you into a splendid ninja and I will never give up on that. You were meant to be a splendid ninja and you shall be one, said Guy. Guy-sensei. Lee. Lee began to tear up a little. Guy-sensei. Lee. The two embraced on the bridge to the backdrop of an ocean sunset. Guy looked up at the two remaining members of Team Guy. Neji. Fine, but just this once, Neji said to himself as Guy started to stare him into submission. Guy-sensei, Lee. Tenten. Shouted Lee. Tenten smiled. Lee. Guy-sensei. The sunset brightened as the two remaining members of Team Guy finally joined in on the group hug. Well, Tenten did anyways while Neji just put a hand on Lee's shoulder. So you're absolutely sure about this, Lee? Yes, Hokage-sama. I have never been surer in my life. To be a splendid ninja, that is my dream and it is something I will not give up on. Declared Lee. Tsunade crossed her hands underneath her chin and thought for a moment. Alright, you know the risk so. No. I absolutely refuse to s until my dream has been realized. Said Lee. This operation will be a success. If it is not, then I will, no. There will be no failure here. You are the best in the world and the operation will be an absolute success. Tsunade smiled as Lee suddenly took on an image of Naruto, Nawaki, and Dan. Although the dreams weren't the same, Lee's resolve was just as strong. Very well, Shizune. Tsunade called in Shizune. Yes, Tsunade-sama, said Shizune, entering the office. Take Lee to the hospital and get him all checked in, said Tsunade. Lee, we will use tomorrow to go through all the preparations and then we will do the surgery the following day. Is that fine? Yes, Hokage-sama. Don't worry Lee, Tsunade-sama will have you doing laps around the village on your fingers in no time. Said Tenten. This actually made Lee more excited for some reason. Unfortunately it was getting late and Naruto couldn't spend any more time in the hospital with Hinata, at least not unless he wanted to stay himself after Tsunade beat him up, trying to get him to leave. I guess I'll see you tomorrow Hinata, said Naruto, bending over to give her a quick K. Oh, how long do you have to stay in here? The doctors say I'll be able to leave after 3 more nights in here, replied Hinata. Great, I'll take you on a real date when you get out of here. How about on Saturday, 4 days from now? Asked Naruto. He's really asking me out on a date. Inside her head, Hinata squealed at her fortune. That would be wonderful. Naruto smiled as he left the hospital, only to bump into 2 girls that were going to make him wish he took Tsunade up on her offer. So Naruto, where are you taking her? Asked Ino, putting one arm around the blonde's shoulder. Yeah, tell us Naruto, said Sakura, joining Naruto on the other side. Huh, what are you two talking about? Asked a now confused Naruto. You know, I had imagined it would have taken you years to realize her feelings towards, said Ino. No, I doubt he would have ever noticed, interrupted Sakura. Enough, shouted Naruto, who was growing increasingly irritated by the 2 girls pestering. That shut Sakura and Ino up for a moment to say something. What the hell are the 2 of you talking about? What do you mean? We're talking about you and Hinata. I saw the 2 of you together in K the other day, said Ino. Naruto sighed in defeat. So have you asked her out yet? Asked Sakura. Yes, for your information, we are going when she gets out of the hospital, said Naruto. He spent the next few minutes explaining why she was in the hospital and, well let's just say Kurenai's guy-level workout was no longer the only thing Kiba had to worry about now. So, where are you taking her? Asked Ino, again. Well, said Naruto, trying to come up with some sort of excuse that would satisfy the 2 pests. Sakura and Ino instantly saw that he had absolutely no idea what he was doing. Come on, walk with us, said Sakura as she and Ino practically dragged Naruto along with them. Okay, so listen closely. This is your first date and Hinata really likes you, so you've got to do something special. I know, said Naruto before he was interrupted. There are a few do's and don'ts for dating, said Ino. First, you must treat her like an absolute gentleman. Not only is she the heiress to a big clan in Konoha, but, speaking of which, how the hell did the 2 of you end up together? Naruto sighed. He definitely should have taken Tsunade up on her offer and gotten himself beat up, just so he could spend a night in the hospital. He explained the details regarding that night to Ino and Sakura, minus the QB part, and the 2 girls actually saw it as pretty romantic, minus the bone-crunching splat and village-shaking tremor that followed due to Tsunade. They even pictured themselves coming to Sasuke's aid, following Sasuke falling right into their arms. Anyways, you must be a complete gentleman, restated Sakura. And make sure you clean up before going. You kind of do smell a bit. Also, you're going to need to wear something other than that obnoxiously bright orange jumpsuit, said Ino. What's wrong with orange? Asked Naruto, slightly afraid now. Everything. Both Ino and Sakura shouted in unison as a chibi Naruto shrunk and Ino and Sakura's head grew as if they were using Iruka's big head jutsu. But what am I supposed to wear? Asked Naruto. Ino and Sakura sighed. He's so clueless, isn't he? They said in unison. Well, first where are you taking her? Oh, and that leads me to the most important piece of advice, said Ino. Absolutely no ramen. But what's wrong with ramen? Asked Naruto, trying to defend his favorite food. It may be fine for an occasional lunch date, but you can't take her there for your first date, said Sakura. So where are you taking her? Well, I kind of don't know yet. It's not like there are a lot of places I can go, said Naruto. Well, You have to have some money. After all, you've been doing non-stop missions for the past week, said Sakura. No, it's not money that's the problem. In fact, I've got plenty from my trip with Ero Sennin to bring back Sunadbakan, said Naruto. It's just I don't know any places in Konoha, besides Ichiraku, that will actually serve me. Huh, why wouldn't they serve you? Asked Ino. Don't bother with that, Ino, said Sakura. She knew why, but unfortunately she couldn't tell Ino. Anyways, we'll help you find a place to eat. Don't worry about it. The trio made their way around the village, dodging flying pots and pans at nearly every nice restaurant they could think of. Ino still couldn't get her arms wrapped around why Naruto was so hated. Sure, he was a troublemaker in the past, but he's begun to change and she couldn't remember any of his pranks being that bad. There was only one more restaurant that they could think of, and it was probably the nicest restaurant in Konoha, the Flaming Leaf Inn. Ino and Sakura pushed Naruto inside, although Naruto protested that this was just going to end like every other restaurant, with a pot of boiling sauce or a pan of fried oil being tossed at him. Hello, how may I help you? Said the restaurant manager as she turned to greet them. Oh, I'm sorry, but our restaurant has a particular dress code and I'm afraid you dressed properly. No, we're just here to get our friend and his date a reservation if that's okay. Said Ino. The manager looked over at who he was and instantly spotted Naruto. Naruto was bracing himself for the pan of boiling oil but was surprised when all he got was, "We can certainly do that." What time were you thinking of, sir? Naruto stood there dumbfounded. You're not going to hurt me. Or throw me out with pots and pans. Not to mention he had never been referred to as, sir, before. The manager laughed. Why would I do that to the person who saved me from when the sound ninja attacked? Instantly, Naruto knew why the manager had looked familiar. She was the woman within that group that he, Sasuke, and Sakura saved from the sound ninja during the invasion. She was the one who denied the demon brat comment Naruto had made when they jumped in the way to deflect the kunai that were heading directly towards her head. It appears as if she had a change of heart from that event, realizing that he wasn't the demon, or at least he wasn't as bad as she initially thought. Oh, now I remember, exclaimed Naruto. The manager just smiled, although she was slightly irritated. Well anyway, what time were you thinking? Asked the manager. Well, sometime Saturday I guess, replied Naruto. Excuse him, this is kind of the first time he's had to deal with stuff like this, interjected Sakura. Make it for as close to 7 p.m. on Saturday as you can please. The manager took a look at the list of reservations. The only spot I have left is at 6:45. You're lucky you got here before it was taken. Great, thank you very much, said Naruto. My name's Kamiri Rikinu and my husband, Satanora, is the head chef here, Kamiri said as her husband came out of the kitchen. A few months ago, he would have in fact thrown a pan of burning grease at Naruto, but after hearing how his wife's life was saved at the hands of the former demon child, he decided to give the blonde a chance. Hello Uzumaki-san, the chef said, joining his wife's side. Satanora was a rather large man, probably in his late 40s or early 50s. He still had a full head of hair tied back in a ponytail, but it was easy to see that his hair was turning gray. Kamiri looked younger than her husband, although not by much. She was probably in her late 30s at the youngest. She had a slim face and brown hair that she had tied in a ponytail that went down just below her shoulders. It looks like you and a date will be joining us on Saturday evening. I promise you that everything will be exceptional for the both of you. I don't suppose either of these two fine young ladies is your date. Ino and Sakura were slightly insulted by that comment. Naruto just put his hand behind his head and laughed a little. No, my date is actually Hinata Hoiga. This took the restaurant owners by surprise. They had not expected Naruto to manage a date with a Hoiga, let alone the clan heiress. Wow, aiming high aren't we? Joked Satanora. Naruto was slightly taken back but realized the man was simply joking. He seemed rather polite and respectable, and he even liked to lighten things up a little. I'm sorry to say that we must get back to work, said Kamiri. However, here is a sample menu and our dress guidelines, and we hope to see you Saturday evening. Well, that went way better than expected, commented Ino. Sakura nodded, but Naruto was still as confused as he was when he realized a pan was not aimed for his face the moment he walked in. So, I've always wondered what they have. Let's take a look at that menu. Naruto, are you sure you have this much money? Asked Sakura. The restaurant was indeed expensive and Sakura estimated that it would cost both of them around 4,000–5,000 ryo to eat there. Well yeah, I've got plenty, said Naruto. I won just over 300,000 ryo from when Tsunade Barkan taught me to play poker. Sakura and Ino were speechless. The blonde knucklehead had a small fortune, at least for a 12-year-old genin, stashed away. Anyways, what are you going to do about the dress code? It says here you need a jacket, said Sakura. But I have a jacket, said Naruto, pointing at the orange coat that was part of his jumpsuit. He then felt two fists converge on the top of his head. No orange, yelled Sakura and Ino in unison. By jacket, they mean suit. You need a suit jacket, dress slacks, shirt and tie, and a pair of nice dress shoes, explained Ino. But I don't have any of those, said Naruto, rubbing the bump on his head. Geez, you are hopeless, replied Sakura. Just go suit shopping in the next few days. I don't know too much about guys' formal wear, so I don't think we are going to be too much help. Alright, hey, I'll go ask Iruka-sensei. I'm sure he'll know what to do, said Naruto. Ino and Sakura nodded. Iruka wasn't a bad choice and they were both aware that Naruto and Iruka-sensei shared a special bond. Surely he would be able to steer Naruto in the right direction. Now, just remember everything we told you, oh, and stop by my family's shop for flowers before you pick her up, said Ino. I know, I was planning on that. I'm not that hopeless, you know, exclaimed Naruto as his two pests finally left him alone. Iruka had just finished upgrading papers for the day when a knock was heard on the classroom door. He called out for the person to come in and much to his pleasant surprise, it was Naruto. Hey Iruka-sensei, I kind of wanted to ask for your help on something, said Naruto. Oh, and what is that? History, ninjutsu, genjutsu, asked Iruka. No, I kind of have a date this weekend and I need some help suit shopping, said Naruto. Suit shopping. Iruka never thought he would see the day where Naruto would wear a formal suit. Oh, and you say you have a date. With whom may I ask? Silently, Iruka was pleading that it was with Hinata. He knew Naruto wasn't an idiot, but if Naruto still wasn't seeing the young Hyuga's feelings towards him, then it was not helping his case. Well, it's with Hinata, said Naruto, letting out a slight laugh. Iruka silently praised Kami that Naruto had finally noticed Hinata. Well, it's about time, said Iruka. She's been looking at you for at least the past 4 or 5 years. Please don't remind me, Iruka-sensei, said Naruto. Again, Iruka let out a slight laugh. Okay, just give me a few minutes to finish up here and I'll help you. Why don't you go out to the yard? I think Konohamaru is there practicing with shuriken. Maybe you can give him a few pointers. Naruto proceeded out to the yard and there was Konohamaru, unfortunately with Ebisu, practicing his shuriken throwing. Hey boss, shouted Konohamaru, noticing Naruto. Hey Konohamaru, shuriken practice huh? Responded Naruto. Yep, replied Konohamaru. Hey boss, you've been a ninja for a few months now. You've got to know a cool jutsu or two, can you show me? Naruto took this as a time to show off. Yeah, and actually, I've got just the jutsu for you. Stand back. Naruto pulled 2 shuriken out of his holster and aimed for the training post. He threw them and made a quick seal. Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Suddenly, the 2 shuriken became 100 and the post was bombarded with a shower of metal. Konohamaru's eyes lit up and Ebisu was cursing Naruto. That was amazing boss, you know Grandpa's technique. Shouted Konohamaru. Hey, can you teach it to me? Naruto laughed at the young ninja to be. I could, but UHVE to know the Shadow Clone Juts. Naruto was instantly shut up by Ebisu. Honorable grandson, while those jutsu certainly are impressive, they require one to hone the basics to perfection. After all, no one is taught the Shadow Clone Jutsu while they're in the academy. In fact, ninja are not taught it until they are jonin, explained Ebisu. I knew the Shadow Clone Jutsu before I graduated, said Naruto. Shut it you, said Ebisu. It was too late and the damage had been done. Wow, really? Can you please teach me boss? Begged Konohamaru. Yeah, I'll teach you one of these days, I promise, said Naruto, receiving a death glare from Ebisu. However, Before Ebisu could start strangling the blonde, Iruka exited the building and he and Naruto left to go find Naruto a suit. The afternoon was much like the previous day when Naruto went looking for restaurants. Many of the shops would toss him out and refuse to sell, causing Iruka to become increasingly irritated at the shopkeepers. It wasn't until the sixth shop where they found a rather nice suit for Naruto that Iruka finally flipped and persuaded the shopkeeper that they should sell to Naruto. Ino and Sakura were going to have a fit. They had told him no orange, but he managed to squeak in a few streaks of orange on his tie. The suit itself was solid black and made from a fairly good quality of fabric. The shirt was a patterned gray that seemed like it had a slight hint of blue to it. The tie is what brought out the blue. It was primarily an orange tie with a series of blue swirls working their way through the tie. These swirls helped to accent the slight hint of blue that was in Naruto's shirt. Looking at his former student, Iruka stood in disbelief. He never imagined the day when Naruto would actually be wearing a formal suit. It nearly brought tears to his eye. Now all Naruto really had to do at the moment was to let Hinata know of his plans. Hiyashi stared wide-eyed at Naruto when he found out where exactly Naruto had managed to get reservations at. The Flaming Leaf Inn was probably the highest-scale restaurant in the entire village. Reservations at that place were nearly impossible to get unless you knew someone, and it was normal to have to reserve at least a month in advance. Not to mention, Hiyashi knew Naruto was not welcomed in almost every restaurant. Tell me, Naruto, how did you manage to get reservations at the most prestigious restaurant in the village and only 3 days in advance? Said Hiyashi, beginning his interrogation. Well, apparently I saved the owners during the invasion and this is their way of thanking me, explained Naruto. I don't really know. It was really nice of them. Out of the other dozen restaurants we went to, I got pans thrown at me, but this one, well, they gave me a reservation and rather warmly too. It made sense that the owners had a change of heart after something like that. Alright, but now you do realize what you're getting into, don't you? There is a dress code, do you have the proper attire? Asked Hiyashi. Yeah, Iruka-sensei took me suit shopping yesterday. It was almost as bad as the restaurant searching, said Naruto as he pulled a needle out of his shoulder. He must have missed it when he was de-needling himself. But then Iruka-sensei used his big head jutsu and one of the shopkeepers sold me this suit. Naruto handed Hiyashi the suit that he had in his bags. Hiyashi was actually impressed. Good quality. I just hope you don't grow out of it too soon, said Hiyashi. Now, you do realize that this restaurant is one of the more expensive places. The last thing you want is to not be able to pay the bill. Don't worry about that. I have a couple 100,000 ryo in the bank from when Tsunade Barken. Hiyashi's eye twitched upon hearing Naruto refer to the Hokage like this. Taught me to play poker, explained Naruto. I'm going to have a talk with Sensei. Gambling is one of the last things I wanted Hinata exposed to during that trip, thought Hiyashi. Fair enough. It seems like you are capable of taking Hinata there. Now, about manners, I expect you to act like a proper gentleman around Hinata. Naruto gulped. In truth, he had no idea what sort of manners Hiyashi was talking about. I mean, he could act calm and decent if needed, but he wasn't sure if that would be enough for this man. Don't worry, uncle, I'll make sure Naruto knows how to act, said Neji, stepping into the room just in time to save Naruto. Hiyashi nodded. Very well. Now if that is everything, you may stop by and pick Hinata up at 6:15 on Saturday. Good day, Naruto. Hiyashi took his leave, leaving Naruto with Neji and Hinata, who was still in disbelief that Naruto had managed to pull out all the stops for their first date, not to mention that she was finally going on a date with Naruto. Thoughts were racing through her head. What would she wear? How would the date go? Would she disappoint Naruto? Naruto, why don't we head to my house and I can teach you everything you'll need to know so that you do not embarrass Hinata, said Neji. What? I would never do that to her. Objected Naruto. I know you would never do it intentionally, but this restaurant requires special behavior. You need to be at your very best as there will most likely be other important figures there, said Neji. Naruto thought for a moment. Alright, thank you Neji, said Neji. No need to thank me. In truth, I am doing this for Hinata-sama. She deserves the very best and I want to make sure you can be the very best for her, said Neji. Don't you worry. I will never let Hinata down. Databio. declared Naruto. Neji gave a slight smile to Naruto. Very well. Oh, and I believe Lee has gotten out of surgery. He should be waking up around now. Would you like to see him? Asked Neji. Really? I knew Barkan could do it, shouted Naruto as the two made their way to Lee's room. Excuse me, nurse, is it alright to visit Lee? Neji asked the nurse exiting his room. She thought for a moment and then said, he's still a little groggy from the anesthesia, but I can allow you to stop in for a few minutes. Please be quick. Neji bowed and the two Leaf Genin entered Lee's room. Nehi, Nachiro, what are ye doing her? Said a drugged up Lee. Naruto couldn't help but let out a slight laugh. Just came to say hello, Lee. How are you doing? Asked Neji. He'll be just fine. The surgery went better than I had initially thought and he may even be back to training in the next month or so, depending on how therapy went, said Tsunade, stepping into the room. Barkan, shouted Naruto. Can the Barkan crap brat? I'm not that old, replied Tsunade. Thank you for seeing to my teammate and friend like that, Tsunade-sama, said Neji, giving Tsunade a bow. It wasn't me. Lee's something else. It's like he practically forced the surgery to be an absolute success, said Tsunade. She had to admit that Lee's resolve was rivaled only by Naruto's, if not greater. Nehi, Naruho, Iwatafai, said Lee, trying to get out of bed. Stay, ordered Tsunade, scaring Lee back into the bed. You're still in no condition to fight, let alone train. You've got at least a month or two of therapy ahead of you before I'm even going to let you within a mile of Guy. Don't worry, Lee, I'll fight you as soon as you're ready, I promise, said Naruto, giving Lee the nice guy pose. As will I and I look forward to it, said Neji. After failing to bring back Tsunade to heal his arms and practically being beat to a pulp in the process, Orochimaru decided to take on a new body. It was been nearly 2 weeks since then and Orochimaru has finally adjusted to the new body. How is that new body suiting you, Orochimaru-sama? Asked Kabuto. It's fine. Different than what I expected, but it will do at least until I get my hands on my next body, said Orochimaru. You're talking about Sasuke Uchiha, aren't you? Asked Kabuto. Yes. He may have avoided me in the Forest of Death, however, that still doesn't mean I won't get his precious Sharingan, hissed Orochimaru. Kabuto, it's almost time, get them ready. It's time I finally bring Sasuke here and show him what it is that I can offer him. And then, he will be mine, after I help him mature a bit further. Yes, Orochimaru-sama, we won't fail you, said Kabuto, quickly bowing to Orochimaru before leaving. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.